Welcome back to the studio, where today we're going to do an all orange doodle using the multiple oranges that I have, which I'll show you. Sometimes it's nice to just pick one focus like that. And we're going to do multiple shapes and then starting from the outside and working our way in. We have done a brown one like that before and I loved how it turned out, so that's gonna be this morning. Full disclosure, I was going to film this for you guys, scratching out this butterfly, and it was so unsatisfying. It just was not the vibe. I just stopped filming and I thought, you know what, let's just do something that makes us feel smooth and reassured. So that's what we're doing. I'm gonna walk you through all the palettes that I'm using. First is the Mini Brighter Day, which has neon orange. How exciting. This is what we used in the SpongeBob flowers one. I have this watercolor confetti set. I got it at Michael's, and I've got lots of different oranges to work with there. Also a watercolor brush pen, which let me know if you'd want to see a video with those. I don't really use those, but they are super handy. This palette's awesome because you can kind of dab here the same way I use this to dab, so it's very contained, great for travel, and you can mix up some colors. Well, actually, that's probably for water. You can mix up colors here. So we're going to use that. I also have this shimmery palette from Artist Loft, which I got at Michael's, and there's a few different oranges. I don't know if we'll need to use all three of those, maybe just those two, but it'll be fun to have some shimmer along with whatever we're doing. Then I have my Xiley palette, which folds all the way out. Clearly, I use it all the time. And we have a few oranges there. This is linked in my shop, but not available anymore, which is so sad. And then we finally have my Brighter Day Pigments palette, which has a really nice rich orange right here, that one. This is linked in my bio. I believe I get you 15% off or 10. Great palette. So, what is that? That is a piece of my ochre paint. Okay, oops, I need to get some water, hold on. Okay, to fully set the scene, I have my very overused water cup. I have this where I'm dabbing. We're going to be using the Princeton round number 2, that's Ryan. Don't eat that, Ryan. Which is in my bio. I'm at my dining table right now because the light in my studio is just too aggressive and it makes my phone turn off because it's so hot. So, oh, that's Ryan rubbing on my camera thing. Ryan, you know you're actually not allowed on the table. What are we doing here? Come on. All right, so someone commented that they'd like to see an all orange piece, and I thought that was such a good idea. So that's what's happening. I think let's start with Brighter Day because it's a very solid orange. That's gonna make us feel good, or at least that'll make me feel good for sure. So let's move on in. Appreciate you letting me adjust. Remember, we're slowing down right now. If you're feeling anxious, we're gonna use this experience as a way to just slow the nervous system. Remember that everything is temporary. I am really anxious right now, actually. And so I'm doing this because I need a cool down before I start my day, which it's not ideal when your day starts off with anxiety. So this is my solution. Okay, hopefully by the end of this I feel better. So we're going to do a bunch of different shapes all over the page. And first I feel like doing an eye shape. I'm going to fill that in and make it very, very pigmented. Just letting the brush and the paper be my focus right now, as opposed to the constant chatter inside my head. Okay, so let's put that aside and let's pick up this guy. It looks like they've run out, but you know what? I still see some life in them. This is kind of red. Well, no, it's a dark orange. It's a dark orange. Let's go for it. In balancing out the composition, I'm going to do that down here. And why don't we do a circle? Clean it up a little. Come back around. Oh. Just crisping up any bits that might have feathered on our journey around the circle. Okay, I'm happy with that. Then let's move down. We have another darkish orange. That one I think is too red for this. And we can do maybe a heart. The paper is going to naturally have these little bumps, right? This is handmade paper. I did not make it, but it is handmade paper. And so we just kind of have to lean into those being a part of our experience. If we fight it, what's the point? Because they're here to stay. So we either let them happen or we fix them as we go. That's our two options. Okay, lovely. Then we move down here. I think another nice shape is going to be a square or rectangle. Maybe a square. Oops, I knew that was going to happen. So notice I'm making a nice little soup. Refilling my brush. This one definitely feathered because that happens when the water runs out. Like this. Then I'm going to squarify this. Okay, that's pretty square, I would say. I mean, I need to make the top one longer, but from the rest of it, move up. That's kind of a tricky angle to get right, moving upward like that. So I'm just gonna recognize that I did my best. I won't get too hung up on it. Maybe if we go like that, it'll even out a little. And then I think we could even balance out this line by thickening it. Okay. There we go. This also looks like a place we could edit. And now I'm obsessing. But you know what? Sometimes that's what you need. If I'm obsessing here, I'm not obsessing in my brain. Am I right? I hope so. Okay. What about, now we're going to do this one. And it hasn't been activated at all, so we're really going like this. Let's go up close for this one. I think what could be nice is a semicircle. The top of the paper, you might be able to see the texture's much more rough. I don't know why that happens. It happens at either the top or the bottom. I guess just something about the particular handmade process. And all that means is we just need to go over it a little more. I was listening to a podcast yesterday And I listened to so many podcasts yesterday that I forgot exactly which one this was. But it said there's always room for strategy, which made me feel really good because it's true. Let's clean that up. I took that to mean is that we don't need to go into things blindly. Like even if you're just crossing the street, you could just walk across the street willy-nilly and, maybe bump into something. Or you can say, okay, my strategy here is to stop before I go, look both ways, and I might not know what's coming on either side, but I do know, I'll then know with my strategy, I don't know if I'm articulating that so well, but I wrote it down on a Post-it note and stuck it near my desk, and I think there's going to be a situation soon where it really hits and helps me with something, so I'm just telling you in case it helps you as well. So we're using a shimmery one now, which is very fun and beautiful, and I love these shimmery paints because they are still super pigmented. That's not always the case with shimmeries, and I think this palette was like $6 or something. Artist Loft, Michaels. I love it. Okay, and then let's do another shimmery one as well. Maybe over, we can do kind of a half one on the side just to spice things up. So I'm gonna take, oh no, look what I just did. Okay, that's fine. We're just gonna go like this. And I'm gonna clean off my brush. Kind of go like that, wiggle it out of there. Oops, getting it on the paper. Sometimes when you try and fix it, it just makes it worse. So I think I'm just gonna call it a day with that. We'll cross that bridge later. Okay, so moving back to our side area, I'd like to use our darker orange, this one. Almost ready. It's a nice color. And what shape do we want to do here? We could do part of a star. I want it to go off the paper because we're gonna start our doodle by going around the edges. And I want the first one to have some kind of intrigue to it. So we'll connect there. So creamy, this paint. Now, so that this would actually bump into that. So I think what I'm gonna do, just thinking on the fly, let's get this in frame better. It would come out like this, I think. Something like that. So I'm just gonna kind of move around this shape. Because this is gonna be our first edge shape, that's really gonna make things interesting with that first line. I've never done one like this, so we'll see how it goes, I guess. And then let's move on to down here and use our little neon. And what shape would look good down here? Maybe just a rectangle. How fun. A skinny rectangle. I like orange because it's light, but it's also very bold. And as you can see from our piece so far, there's quite a spectrum of oranges. I always think of kind of blue and green as having the biggest spectrums, but maybe that's not the case. That's a little thicker there, so I'm gonna go from here and move my brush across until it meets-ish. And then while we're looking at this, I'm gonna crisp up the edge like that. I would use it as a place to just go around, but it was a little too soft compared to my other lines. What happened here? So I didn't feel like doing that this time. And remember, there are no rules. You can treat something a certain way one time, not the next time. Doesn't really matter. Okay, it's just about the vibes. All right, I have a feeling this might bother people, but just remember you can do it differently in yours. I think it's gonna turn out pretty interesting, and I like trying new things. Sagittarius, sue me. So let's do our first all the way round line. So I'm gonna zoom out quite a bit. I like how there's different, oh no, what happened there? I really wonder about myself, I really do. This to me is thick enough that we can actually just go around it. So we're gonna do the outside, ooh, or should we do the insides first? I think we do the insides first because I don't want to be resting my hand here on outline. I'd like to minimize that. So never mind, zooming back in. We're going to now pick up that little confetti palette and use some of these oranges to fill this in. So I'm going to start with the lightest one and work around what we got going on. Which is that little bump. So that's going to totally transform our inside into not an eye shape anymore, but a, whoa, this is such a classic orange in my mind, into a, I don't know what kind of shape this is, like a broken eye. And so I'm putting my line depending on keeping the same amount of white space around each section of what I've done, kind of like a bubble. And we're gonna rotate through our colors just totally random, kind of like the fall leaves one. Not planning too much. Okie dokes. Now, I'm going to use the final orange on my confetti palette, which is very light as well. Honestly, this is yellow. But it looks orange when it's hardened, which is why we always do swatches. But yellow and orange are very close. And as if I was doing an all yellow piece, I'd probably say this one looks pretty orange, so whatever. Gonna move that around and crisp up our little corners, like so. Then I think it might be nice to do something shimmery. So I'm going to take our darker shimmery color, following all the little bumps and stuff. When I'm feeling anxious, I find it most soothing to really pay attention to all those little curves. Really makes you focus. And it's like much more like the piece is breathing. darker orange. Cool. Now let's move on to the heart. I think we'll do something lighter. I'm going to start down here around that little bump that's just naturally part of the paper. Which is also kind of a natural stopping point for us. Which is good because I can come back up here at a good angle for my hand. Hearts are a tricky one because in the same shape, which ideally you'd like to have one flow, your wrist has to go so many ways, but oh, I think we got it this time. Doesn't always quite work out like that. I will take it. Then I want to do our ready shade. And look at the heart shape it's making on the inside, something much more pointy. That, easy fix, watch this. I'm gonna pick it up, smooth. Okay, and then I think our brighter day color could look good in here next. And then we're just left with this little tiny triangle, which will be really fun to fill in, maybe with a lightish shade. So I think I'm going to return to the confetti palette. Oops. And go for one of those yellowy ones. And use the very tip of my brush just to trace in the inside shape. Like so. Okay, let's move along and work on this square. I like to work on the left side first because I'm right-handed, and then once I move along, I have a free area. If I were to do this first, then this, my hand would get all up in there. I think this would look great with the neon. So all those little bits. I now have a neon pink, a neon green, and a neon yellow. We could do an all neon piece. I feel like that's not very relaxing though, but if you'd like to see it, let me know. How about we do shimmery? I'm trying to dance through the colors we have available as evenly as possible so we get kind of equal distribution of each. It's not going to be exact because some shapes are bigger than others, and you know, I'm also not tracking this anywhere. It's just my brain, which isn't always right. I've realized recently, hence the anxiety. crisp. Okay, I think what would look nice here is something on the darkish side. So I think I'll go for this one. It's funny, I had so much resistance to doing that scratch off video. I got the kit in Maine and I just kept saying I don't really feel like doing that one and doing other things. And then as soon as I tried it, it just didn't work. I was like, should have listened to my instincts there. I mean, it's not the end of the world. I just did something else, but I couldn't work out why I had so much resistance to it. And I thought, let me just do it today, okay? And the resistance seemed from somewhere, I guess. Does that make sense? I think so. We're soon going to do a piece that is kind of like those ombre squares. I'll show you in a sec, those blue ones. This is obviously reminding me of it. However, the circle version, and probably not blue, maybe green. And so I am so excited to do that. I'll show you that one I'm talking about right now in case you've missed it. That one is on Shorts and TikTok. If you're watching this on Monday when I've uploaded it, right now I'm probably at the TikTok office in LA because I'm going to a live camp to understand more about that because I think lives could be so fun, but I don't really know much about it, so I'll report back, of course. Okay, then we have this little space in the center, which I think I'm gonna do neon again. I know that we already did it in this shape, but it feels far enough away. I just think it could be a cool little window of opportunity. Okay, now let's look at those ombre squares. I'm gonna untake these. I think I did that in July. This is August. It was around here. Cool, right? So it was like a rainbow spectrum. Started with the blue, and then I went down into the more green, and then out into the more purple, turning to pink, and then turning to this nice toothpastey green almost. So yeah, I really want to try that with circles, which obviously it's going to create some Cassandras. Oh, I loved this guy. And I want to do more phrases. I think I'll definitely do one that's like, you got this, or you're doing amazing, sweetie, or something. But if you have any other suggestions, let me know. I feel like words could be fun to do every so often. Okay, let's move along to our star and circle cluster. If this is bothering you, how close they are together, we're gonna have no idea by the end of the piece that it's like that. And if it's not bothering you, dope, because it's not bothering me either. But if it is bothering you, that's okay too. It's not bad. It's just everyone has different preferences. Okay, can we see this all right? Sometimes I like to finish the paint that's on one side of my brush, and then I flip, and by then both of them have run out. So then I will refresh. Like so. Now we have a little bump there, don't we? Oh, we have a first kissing incident of the orange piece right there. And then I want that to be pointy, so I'm going to use the very tip of my brush. And then this could be a good spot for our neon. I love these tiny little tins. I brought them when I went on my trip, of course. I mean, I brought a lot of my paints because I was gone for a while, but they're just so good for travel. And it's nice to have a limited palette, as in, if I only brought these colors, it would force things to be within that range of color, and sometimes that's cool. Ever heard of Picasso's blue period? Kind of explored all these blue textures in his pieces because he was particularly sad. I forget why. He might have been mourning something. I unfortunately don't remember, but out of great emotion comes great art, am I right? So that's something to look to, or look into if you are interested. So now this shape that the star is, it was never even a full star because we were off the paper, but now it's just super craggy, which is a word I seem to be using a lot. I don't know why. Guess it's a good descriptor. So now it's pretty much reached the edge of the paper. Yeah. So it's split into two sections. We're going to take a lighter color. And then I'm going to go in like so. I think that's a little too thin. Well, we can put it in a bit. But then this is a nice place for a little shimmery center. What are you doing as you watch this? I'm always curious. Now, that is a nice dark shade, and I forget what it was. I feel like it was probably the Brighter Day. So because these are already so close together, I'm going to want to factor in this, this, and this, and probably this, which means what's kind of different from what we have going on is a lighter orange. So I'm going to do that. So my brush kind of thinned out because of the angle I was at. Circles, like hearts, are difficult to kind of get the full way round with all the same consistency, so it's totally cool to start and stop them. I do that a lot, unless they're really tiny, like the blueberries. I love that one. And we meet it up, and because the watercolor is so flowy, as long as we're quick enough, you can't even really tell where one line started and one stopped, so looks good to me. I'd now like to use a lighter shade, kind of do like a mini ombre. So as the circle shrinks, as we move around, it gets easier to do more and more of at one time. Okay. Now, just to break up this dance we got going on, I think the neon orange would be cool. Now it's kind of turning squarey, huh? Let's go back to a more dark orange. Are we gonna make a corner? We might. kind of, not, well, no, the next one's probably gonna have a corner. I just love so much how we can't plan things out too hard with these. All I do is plan, 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 and now I can just be. This is orange, believe it or not. It's this one. Definitely a bit of a corner. And then we have a tiny little space in the center there where I think I'm going to take that Brighter Day orange, which is actually the outline color, and just do a little suggestion of a line. Okay, looking fun. This is like weirdly cheery to me. I don't know why weirdly. All right, so now, you know what we haven't done yet is the two shimmery colors next to each other. So I feel like this could be a good opportunity. This area here, I'm gonna kind of rub out. Should do this with clear water, but my water's orange because it was too light to kind of work around. And it's gonna fade into things with that. So let's get our darker shimmery color. Let's get the cat hair out the brush. Ryan, this is exactly why you're not allowed on the table, bro. They look pretty similar, I know. Now, because that's wet, we're gonna have to be careful. I don't think it's too wet where it's gonna bleed too hard, but I'm gonna just do it last so it has a moment to dry and recalibrate. When I'm doing a multiple color piece like this, I kind of like to pick one color that's my quote unquote neutral, like with the fall leaves we did that with yellow ochre. And whenever the colors are kind of bouncing light, dark, light, dark, light, dark, I like to return to that one as the kind of central area that like brings us back on course. And so this color I'm using now is what I think is the neutral, most orange in this piece. Gonna fill in those little feathers. Oops, that made this raise a little, but you know what? It's just gonna give us fun on the inside. I need to go to the grocery store today. I don't know what I want to make this week. I'm thinking though, I really have a lot to get done this week for a few reasons, and so I want to make my days as easy for myself as possible. So I'm thinking of kind of prepping some food for lunches, or honestly maybe and dinners too. Not fully prepping because I do enjoy the pause kind of preparing food forces me to have, but like kind of maybe already have the rice cooked or stuff like that. So I need to work on that later. I do have some chicken thighs already. Lots to do with chicken thighs, with bone and skin. Look at me, grown up. Oop. Very wiggly. Okay, let's do something. You know what, actually let's do something darkish on the inside. It's quite a dark triangle compared to the rest of the piece. Which, what do we like? Diversity, correct. Okay, now that's definitely too small to go in there. Okay, now we're moving on to our final shape, which is our rectangle. Now let's observe how, well, let's observe a few things actually. firstly, look how this paint is spread out. It's given itself a little bit of a darker outline where the pigment has collected. That's cool. No notes, just something interesting to see. Then also let's see how this is like, we're definitely gonna bring that into the rest of our piece, which I'm excited for. I also really like that dark color we just used, so I'm gonna do that again. I like going out in nature because you see all kinds of things. Like the more you slow down, the more you see. Have you ever been forest bathing? Because that is my favorite activity. But you might at first like notice different kinds of flowers or plants, and then you might notice different shapes of leaves within a single flower or plant. And I don't know, it's just, there's so many things that are recharging about nature, but particularly for me, that is what I find so resetting. It's just like so many different things to notice within one often small area. And if I'm not able to go out in nature, because I live in Los Angeles, this process is kind of as similar a feeling as I could get, because I have to notice all those little bits, and I find it refreshing. I'm gonna go for a shimmery shade, which pretty quickly is going to shrink this shape. I think we might only have one color, space for one color on the inside. I've been wanting to make my own paper so badly, and I haven't done that in years, but I know that you need to collect kind of scrap paper that you almost recycle into your paper. And so I've been doing that, and I have quite the pile going, and I'm definitely not going to get to it this week, but I really want to try it. I just feel like it could be so cool. And this bump right there really reminded me of that right now. So then I'm going to do a light orange, I think, just in the center. All right, let's have a look at our piece as a whole now, shall we? Our water is looking really orange, and some people like to change it out. I am not going to, because A, then I'd have to get up, no thanks, and B, I'm using orange, so it doesn't matter. So what we're gonna do is make our way around. Lizzie, I really wonder about myself. Hold on. A damp, clean towel, paper towel, that I'm just gonna use to dilute this as best I can. If I had clean water, which is ironic because I was just talking about how I didn't want clean water, I could use it and a clean brush, but I don't have that, so I've just run to the kitchen. And I'm using this like that. I didn't want to incorporate that in my piece because it's just too out of character. Like if there's a wiggle, it's part of the line I was being intentional about, but that was just me being sloppy and messy, which is also why I'm feeling anxious in other areas of life, because I was being stupid. So I don't know why I'm telling you this, but we're just gonna pull it out of my body and onto the paper, and I'm going to feel better. I think for the outside shade, I want to do something dark because it kind of like, it's gonna bounding box it in. So let's use our Brighter Day Orange. And what I'd like to do is see how the paper is obviously deckled. I would like to incorporate that in my line. So up here it's pretty straight, but it is this crispier texture. And when it's like that, I just kind of go like whatever. I know it's not going to be so smooth. Then I at least have a runway, and I can be more slow about filling it in. Nice. Okay, let's see. It can be really hard to tell, but I'm going to try my best. Make that consistent. Now, if you've been here before, you know I really don't like the crevice area. And this is a whole line of crevice. However, pros and cons, yin yang, is that I then pretty quickly am gonna move us out of the crevice because I'm filling in so much at a time. I'm not gonna have to like come in here, then come in here, so whatever. And with this area, I really, really, really just accept my best at that time as what I can do, because it's just really hard to get to and get to perfect. And kind of like we were saying at the start, the best is all you can do, and particularly today, all I have the mental energy for. I slept pretty well for once in a couple days, but it's not about that. Okay, we're gonna go from the other side just so this has as much time to dry as possible. So let's have a little look at where we are. We have a little secret message from our previous one, which I usually just go over, but actually today let's move around it. So it's gonna go like this. Nice. Then we can continue. Oh, actually that's a little bit. Gonna have to go around that. Okay. Remember, all of the shapes and bits we come into contact with are there as our guide. It's like how a path turns a corner. If you're kind of meandering your way through a hike in nature, you don't think, oh, this isn't a straight line, A to B, how ridiculous. Like, it's about the journey. Like, maybe the path is taking you a little to the left because it wants you to walk past this really cool tree that you wouldn't have seen if things were a straight line. So that's how I like to think about these, and that's why I don't get frustrated when it takes a interesting turn, because that's just part of the piece. And my intention is to try and self-soothe right now, not to finish this as quickly as possible and as A to B as possible. So just a note on that while we're here. Okay, now we're gonna make our way around the circle, and because that way wouldn't give me much control, I'm starting here. Gonna pick up. Oh, you know what? I think this actually might be this color. I didn't really think too much about that. Well, it's down now, isn't it? Even the same shade, though, can have different opacities in it because of how much water is on the brush at that time. So it still could look different. And even if it doesn't, again, that's just what we're working with, isn't it? Okay, I'm gonna try my best to get this. You know what's really getting me through life right now? Dancing with the Stars. I know it's only been one episode, but I just love that show so much, and it's coming on Tuesday. Can't wait. When I was little, I lived in the UK, and we had a similar show. Well, there was Strictly Come Dancing and stuff, but my favorite was Dancing on Ice, which is like an ice skating version. And celebrities go on and try to master ice skating with routines, and it's judged, and they have fun outfits, and it's all about their journey. And I loved watching that with my family. And so, in its own way, Dancing with the Stars kind of feels nostalgic. I only started watching it about 4 years ago. I don't know why. Okay, and with that, we have our first line, which is awesome because every line now is going to shrink, 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 and get us further away from that. I already see lots of little bits we're gonna have a play with. Okay, I'm thinking The neon could be cool next. However, it's gonna be super close to that. So maybe we do something a little more neutrally orangey and then see where that takes us. Yeah, that's gonna be the move. Okay, we're gonna stay out at this distance one more time, and then I think we can move in a little. Hopefully you like this distance. I'm not sure, but I do. So I'm gonna hold on to my wrist so I don't lean there where it's wet, and I'm gonna make my way across, again with this part in particular, just going because we're going to have to fill it in anyway. Where I'm sitting right now is usually where I do puzzles, so I'm trying to channel that puzzle disappearing into an activity energy. Now we've come to a blockade in our line. Dun dun dun. We're gonna go in as far as we can, and then we're gonna have to pivot outward, which would take us here. So we're kind of gonna do the reverse. And then we just keep it pushing, moving along our semicircle. And I'd like to reflect that corner a little better. Where you meet two lines, like I went this way and then this way, so it happened twice, is always a little funky, so I tend to go back and just edit that slightly. We're gonna do that here too. But first we're gonna move slowly through this little area. Around all our bits. And then that's going to come back out. Give us this tiny little shape. Nice. This area kind of looks like a toy you'd find in like a Scandinavian kid store somehow. I don't know how to explain that, but it's so cute to me. Okay, so again, I'm gonna be, actually before we go here, let's work on this side. So I'm not leaning on anything I don't want to be leaning on. Around any bumps. Connect. And then this will start from the bottom actually. Bump, bump. Look at. So that's super bumpy, but we're just going with it. Now that that side is done and I don't need to worry about bleed, I'm gonna come back over here and continue working on this side. Wow, my stomach is rumbling. I really hope you can't hear that. I'm making my favorite breakfast tostada after this. And I'll probably have another coffee, because that's what you should do when you're anxious. No, I'm actually feeling a little better. I mean, not cured, but sometimes this thing I'm anxious about, it's gonna be with me for a while, and the key is just to accept that and give myself moments where I don't need to think about it, kind of like breathing space or like refilling space in the mind, so that next time I am so anxious, I have had some buffer space to not like completely spiral. And that's how I see doing this activity. So really, sometimes I try and think of my brain having a little army in it, like little soldiers, and when there's a bad thought, sometimes we lean into it, Sometimes we try and process it, and sometimes the soldiers are like, not today. Well, not right now. Right now, we are recharging. Please try again later. So I'm like, as they come up, I'm really like genuinely visualizing these soldiers being like, hold on. Let her have her little orange paint moment, okay? So this is going to be interesting because with our erasing of the paint, we kind of pulled up some fibers of the paper, so that's going to be crunchy, kind of like it was at the top. So it's just something to keep in mind. I like that corner, that's very sweet. So then we're going to come down here. Pick back up. Okay, so then this has blocked off this area. Fun. So with the leaves piece, or sorry, it wasn't leaves, it was gourds. I also did a leaves one. Every time there was a new blank area like this or this, I would fill it in differently. But I think I want to keep the concentric feeling, and so we're going to go color by color as opposed to area by area, which you'll see as we go. What would be nice next is a light shade or a shimmery shade. I think a light shade and then a shimmery shade. That's my thought process. And the good part is I can't do it wrong because I'm making it up. So that's reassuring. All right. I want to start again over here. You don't have to start in the same place every time, but for some reason I have been. You can even start in a different place every time as part of the fun if you want to. I've definitely done that before. Clean up that. Then make our way around. Or actually, do we want to keep a far away viewpoint, because then you can see how the piece is progressing. I've asked before, and it's pretty mixed about whether people like zooming in or being bird's eye. I feel like especially if you have this on in the background, it might be nice to have it bird's eye so you can kind of glance every so often and see progress. And my solution to people liking different things is just to do a little bit of all of them. So maybe every video isn't your exact preferences, but there will be some. It's good to try new things. Let's, before we get too far away, fill in that little triangle. Love it. And then I'm going to do this section, and then we're going to move over to the left again. So here we've closed that off. For some reason, this is irresistible to fill in that to me right now. All right, let's pick back up over here. Being really conscious to move organically along this bumpy line that we have. And then this one is only going to go so far because of this triangle going down, so we'll just use our point. And then right here, we're creating another triangle. It's funny how that happens. And we're going to move up. I think these two lines are gonna meet, which is a fun observation. Okay, so then because it's the same line, it doesn't matter that it touches like that, and that's cute that it did touch like that. It's like it missed itself. Missed like longing, not skipped. Okay, and then this is gonna skinny its way through there and come back and meet itself. Which is probably gonna turn into one slightly thick line, yeah. Which is cool. That's fine. So I'm gonna go along the bottom of the orange now. That's kind of satisfying how it fits in just like that. I like that. We're gonna do the same thing over here. And we've created a one. Well, opposite way, but that's sweet. And then let's do this negative space. Tidy that, or crisp that. All right, awesome. Okay, I think a shimmery one could be nice next, and it's gonna close off a lot of this curve, which is gonna make me happy. I'm thinking the darker one, because the lighter one is right there, and then the darker, but I don't know, gives it a little more space, I think. So I'm gonna start in my favorite place, apparently. Flip over. This pigment specifically is so creamy that I can kind of cover all the bases with it, because it like drips into the little areas of the paper. Move around our eye shape. That didn't end up being a proper eye shape with any of the lines, but again, that's just the twist and turn our path took. Okay, I'm going to go to the end of this semicircle, and then I'm going to go back to that left side. I feel like this kind of painting is a weird combination of predictability and unpredictability. Like, we don't know how exactly it's going to look, but we know how we're going to react to whatever it is. So that's reassuring in its own way, you know? Okay. Okay, now we're gonna go in between here. And then we're basically just going in a diagonal plus this heart to make those lines match, or like match up. And then we can come fill in any closed off bits that we have down here. Also, what's interesting about using multiple colors like this is because there's so many, sometimes we know what we've done. For example, if it's one of these two shimmeries, or if it's the darkest, or the lightest, or the neon. But there's so many in between that if you see a quote-unquote mistake, you can't always go back and fix it. I was just looking at that and thinking, maybe I'd want it a little longer, but I don't even remember what I used. So I just have to lean into what already is. Okay, cool. Now we're gonna go into these little bits at the bottom and add that same shade. So this triangle kind of looks like a flag. Now look at that little bleed that happened. We're gonna go around that for sure. How cute. Kind of another one here. Just gonna leave us with just a tiny little bit inside our opposite direction number 1. And then we have this part right here. Cool. I think I'm gonna do one more mid-orange tone, and then I'm gonna do a neon layer. Although I'd kind of like to get some neon in the corner. I think that would look good, balance-wise, but then it's very close to that. Actually, I'm gonna do what I originally said. Do one layer and then get into the neon. You know what could be cool is quite a dark one. Maybe we'll do our darkest shade. Just right here. At this point, there's a lot of different areas of wet paint on the paper, so we need to be really careful with where my arm falls. I think I can rest right there. And then take it around. get up in here. It's not gonna go through that gap, but we do want a little activity up there in that triangular-ish shape. Let's come a little closer. I'm gonna go from this side. So now the same way that we were filling in the square, we're expanding it, but just also in collaboration with the rest of whatever is on our page. That was quite a nice heart edge. All right. Trying to think what part I want to do next. There's so many options. Well, not so many too, but I could start them all from different places as well. It's like a spider web, which we'll be doing for Halloween, don't worry. I don't know if that's going to be a full-length video here, but I'll do it somewhere. Moving along. It's cool how the star and circle came together to be this kind of point. I wonder how far into the piece that's gonna transfer. Time will tell. Okay, so we have that round. Now we're going to go into the negative spaces we couldn't reach that still have gaps. So that's right over here. Turn my brush to get the very corner. Sometimes I don't turn it all the way and then I don't get the very corner and then it isn't exactly how I wanted it to be and then I feel silly. So I've got to remember. And then right here too, haha, almost missed that. It's hidden back there. Okay, now I think is a good time to do a neon. And we'll start actually with this little corner. Too much on my brush right now. There's too much, it's kind of globby and then we don't get the precision. Okay, and then we're going to move so that we see this whole negative space. Okay. Now, before we get too over the side, I want to get into this. And, oh, well, okay, something interesting has happened, which is that it's bled into itself. Okay, we're just gonna go with it. Usually that's kind of okay because it's the same color, so you don't even notice, but now we have a little performance art corner over there, so we'll see what happens. Connect this guy. And then we're gonna take, maybe those weren't the same shade, now that I look at it. Okay, nice. And then I'm gonna pick up this here and continue moving around our heart essence. Oh, I must have got my wrist in there because look, it's feathered. I think I'd like to come down this side first. I'm gonna go just a little south of where it would connect, so I can kind of do that with one confident line and then carefully do this with a different element of my brush, the pointy tip. Okay, and then same thing here, moving around, and then coming back here with the point to crisp up that connection. Now we have space for a little guy there. That one's too small, I'm deeming. And then we have this. It's funny how this became triangle, triangle, triangle. Nice. All right, I think let's do that kind of very, very light orange that's almost yellowy. So starting up here, we're just gonna fill in that bit with the tip. I'm gonna transfer this over so we can have a look. This one right here. And I'm gonna swoosh along the eye shape and swoosh up the heart shape till they meet in this nice corner. We get this kind of corner shape a lot too. Let's give it a name. It can be Cassandra's cousin. No, Cassandra's in this piece, I guess. We need more rounded things. Okay, so this transformed quite a lot. It was shooting all the way up to this corner, but now we really just have a rectangle for our next section. Okay, then in here, flip. Honestly, I think we have enough on this brush to keep it going. Awesome. And then we have this little triangle we're working our way up. Okay, cool. I think we can get even closer now. think I want to do the other shimmery. So the lighter orange, the darker orange shimmery, which I can't fit in the frame, so sorry about that. Oh, we already did darker orange shimmery. I should have done lighter orange shimmery. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. I think after this I'm going to return to that neutral-ish orange in terms of our spectrum, because we got a lot going on. We have shimmery, we have dark, we have fluorescent, we have light, so I think middle is going to be a nice palette cleanser, even though it's all orange. I actually think the Brighter Day one, it's not our exact neutral, but it's pretty close. I think that would be nice. This is going to be interesting. Oh, also, I realized that I missed, and I do remember which one that was. Haha. Go back in and fill it in. All right, that'll do. Okay, Brighter Day. Need a little more pigment. This is a kind of funny shape when we have something like this, because like we could technically do a really thin line, but it's already even too thin to put something in, and I don't know, I kind of just feel like not. This little fill in, and then we also have the tiny corner of our triangle there. So now let's take a step back and look at our whole composition. Interesting. I'm into it. Get everything out the way. It's nice how the light is catching the shimmer right now. Feels kind of, oh, that's cool. Love that. I don't know how to put it into words, but like op-arty almost, maybe. I don't know. I like it. I'm feeling a little calmer. I'm gonna have my breakfast, another coffee, and then clean my apartment. It's really cloudy outside, but I'd also like to go for a neighborhood walk in a little bit. So that's my life. Thanks for listening. Hope you have a great day as well. And I'm a little off my grind. I don't know if there's going to be a video on Wednesday. So I'll for sure see you next Monday, but if I can do one for Wednesday, I will. All right, have a great week.